Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Foxy New.
Welcome back, fight fans. Let's keep that same energy with Canelo Alvarez and Tyson Fury. It's another edition of keeping that same energy. And you know, the interesting thing about this is people call Canelo Alvarez a drug cheat and Tyson Fury's not. Let's be honest and unbiased about the situation. This comes from JBN's John Boxing News, and he states everyone has been giving Canelo Alvarez problems for his failed drug test, but no one says anything about Tyson Fury. And I've noticed a difference and discrepancy between these two. When you look at people, when they talk about Tyson Fury, no one ever mentions a drug test. And if they mention a drug test at all, it's all about, coke or cocaine. And it was because of a mental disorder. He never popped dirty like Canelo. Canelo's bad. Canelo's this. Canelo's that. And I find it funny that a lot of these biased YouTube channels, even guys who claim to be unbiased, guys who claim to be fair, guys who claim to be balanced, never mention this with Tyson Fury, but they always want to condemn Canelo Alvarez. So what we do is different from any and everyone else, is because we debunk things with nothing but facts. We don't get in our feelings. We don't, we don't let how we feel about a guy guide us to a place. We let the truth guide us based on only facts. And let's just break it down. And when you look at Canelo Alvarez failed drug test for clenbuterol, a lot of people were in the uproar, said the guy is dirty, said the guy's a cheater, said the guy should be banned from sports, he's a disgrace, all of these terrible things. But one thing that people fail to mention is that even the NFL realizes there's a drug problem in Mexico's meat with clenbuterol. Even the NFL understands that, and they tells their players that, hey, if you go to Mexico, don't eat the meat because you could fail a drug test. The NFL tells their players this, but no one gave Canelo Alvarez the benefit of the doubt, even though the NFL is telling their players this. Okay? Mexican League players, they were all cleared over clenbuterol. All of them. So now you have the NFL, the Mexican League players, both clearing their players because they understand that tainted meat in Mexico leads to failed drug tests. But people ignore this when they talk about Canelo Alvarez. People ignore that, they want to call Canelo Alvarez a drug cheat and all these things. But yet this is the same guy that signed up for voluntary year-round PED testing. If he was so dirty, why would he be so insistent on doing it voluntarily? Why would Canelo want to do that? It doesn't make any sense. A lot of people say, well, we don't know if he was juiced in the first fight. There was no way to tell, but he never failed anything before the first fight. But even if you take that belief, even if you take that assertion that you thought maybe he could have been juiced, then why did he look better in the second fight? You can't explain that. That's a fanboy narrative. In the second fight, he was more drug tested, more, thoroughly drug tested, and he looked and performed much better the second fight than the first. So why would he even need clenbuterol, which is typically a weight burner, to help his physique to beat a Triple G? It didn't make any sense. Canelo Alvarez relies on skills, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. You look at Canelo Alvarez versus Danny Jacobs, another fantastic performance of a top-level fighter, unified a belt. People don't realize his performances are getting better. They are improving. And look at it like this. Canelo Alvarez went up to 175 light heavyweight and stopped Sergey Kovalev. But yet, this is a guy that you want to call a drug cheat who's being thoroughly tested in his performances, improving fight after fight after fight after being more thoroughly tested. That should tell you all you need to know, that this guy is not a drug cheat. I mean, look at it like this. The Nevada State Athletic Commission had requested Canelo Alvarez take a hair follicle sample to prove his innocence. This is what they requested. This isn't a standard that Canelo set. This isn't a standard that Golden Boy set. This is something that the Nevada State Athletic Commission set for Canelo Alvarez. And you know what he did? He went and took the test, and it vindicated. It cleared him. So now you see the Nevada State Athletic Commission had no choice but to accept that because that was their standard. We also see the WBC come out and state that Canelo Alvarez is innocent. And, WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, basically stating he's innocent as well by raising, the required levels of clenbuterol in the system, because Canelo Alvarez had enough clenbuterol in the system that was consistent with from tainted meat. So we got to understand that this guy has shown no intention to cheat at all, from the hair follicle test to, NFL, Mexican League players, even the WBC clearing Canelo Alvarez, even WADA and NASDAQ also supporting that decision. But you still get fanboys and biased channels come out and say, well, hair follicle testing is not reliable based on the amounts, with detecting the amounts of clenbuterol in one system. So if you do a hair follicle test on one guy, it may show more than another guy just because they have different hair colors. Yes, that is true. So hair follicle testing is not reliable when it comes to the amount of clenbuterol in your system. That is a fact, and I do agree with that. But here's the problem with that. Canelo Alvarez, we already determined the amount of clenbuterol in his system, and it was consistent with tainted meat. So we know the amount. So when we do hair follicle testing, it has nothing to do with the amount that we're looking for. Hair follicle testing and what we're looking for is for the historical usage, and it is reliable for historical usage. According to Victor Conti, fact for boxing, a blood or urine test will not detect the use of clenbuterol for 3 previous months. A hair follicle test can detect clenbuterol usage with intent to cheat as far back as 3 months and even longer. Hair testing is far superior to blood and urine for detecting historical usage. See, it's not like a urine test where you're trying to just see what the amount is. No, because that's not what you use hair follicle testing for. You don't care about the amount in hair follicle testing. You simply want it for the historical usage. And the historical usage showed that Canelo Alvarez was not cheating. He passed the test. We got to be real about it. And this is Victor Conti. A lot of people are going to try to discredit facts. But at the end of the day, why would Victor Conti need to lie for Canelo Alvarez? He's not even in the snack program. Only a moron or an idiot would make that assertion. Victor Conti also goes on to say a hair test results for clenbuterol in the Canelo case are more revealing than the urine test results in regards to 2 possible intent to cheat. Hair results represent a longer period of time than urine tests. If they had found more than 20 mg of clenbuterol in his hair, bingo. So this pretty much exonerates Canelo. So now you have the WBC, WADA, NASDAQ, Victor Conti, and a hair follicle test. You also have the NFL and Mexican Soccer League also saying tainted meat in Mexico can fail a drugs test. All of this is overwhelming evidence that Canelo Alvarez did not cheat, but yet he's constantly being called a cheater. This is trying to taint his legacy. People ignore the facts, and these are the facts. This is not how I feel. This is not what I think. This is all supported evidence and facts. But then when you turn to, Tyson Fury, people say this is the greatest guy they've ever seen. He's an elite athlete. He's this, he's that. And you know what? I think Tyson Fury is one hell of an athlete. He has elite skill set. I do like Tyson Fury, but facts are not hate, and I think a lot of people simply don't understand that. Just because I give you a fact doesn't mean it's hate. When you look at Tyson Fury, he's failed multiple drug tests throughout his career. He didn't never just failed one drug test, he failed multiple. So the fact that you've constantly got failed drug tests on Tyson Fury is completely different from Canelo Alvarez, who had a one-off situation. We got to be honest and unbiased. And then when you look at, what did Tyson Fury pop dirty for? He popped dirty for an anabolic steroid. An anabolic steroid. Now you got to understand the fact that he popped dirty for an anabolic steroid. He was juiced to the gills for the Christian Hammer fight, allegedly. Because you got to understand, Tyson Fury failed that drug test in early 2015, and no one knew he even failed the test until 2016 after he had beat Vladimir Klitschko. So theoretically, you could assume that if he was juiced for the Christian Hammer fight, and he wasn't thoroughly tested for the Vladimir Klitschko fight, how do we know he wasn't juiced for that fight as well? That puts an asterisk by that victory. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge this. They ignore this and they look past this. But we got to be honest and unbiased about what we're seeing. We even see Vladimir Klitschko's own manager come out and state that if this is true about his positive drug testing, which we know it is now, it's too bad we did not do VADA testing before the first fight. I mean, if they would have did VADA testing before the first Klitschko, Fury fight, how do we know the fight would have even happened? How do we know if Tyson Fury would have even won? Because if he was allegedly juiced to the gills for the Christian Hammer fight, one can assume that he was juiced to the gills for the Klitschko fight. We got to be real about it, but people don't want to talk about it. People don't want to ignore it, and they want to call Canelo a cheat and give Fury a pass. It makes no sense. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't, the anti-doping agency in the UK kind of let go of the case with Fury? Why did they settle? They were about to settle because they were being bankrupted in court by Tyson Fury. We got to be honest and unbiased. Look, you can be mad at me, you can be mad at Canelo, you can be mad at a lot of things, but one thing you cannot be is mad at facts. You don't get mad at facts, you just respect them, because at the end of the day, facts cannot be biased. This is not an opinion, this is not my feelings, these are nothing but facts, and you must keep that same energy with Tyson Fury that you keep with Saul Canelo Alvarez.